Welcome back to Cityscape. In this episode of Secret People, we will cover Ruth Bader Ginsburg, a Supreme Court justice who helped pave the way for women's rights and gender equality. Up until the mid-1970s, banks and financial institutions denied women credit cards. The Equal Credit Opportunity Act of 1974 would change all that, prohibiting credit card companies from discriminating on the basis of race, gender, or marital status. This means that if you apply for a credit card, you will only be considered on factors related to your credit worthiness. Such rationale might seem obvious today, but was not so much 50 years ago. This credit card legislation stemmed from much of the legal work directed by Ginsburg when she was an attorney, and we will cover much more of her work in this episode. As always, let's start with a brief background. Joan Ruth Bader was born on March 15, 1933, in Brooklyn, New York. She was raised as an only child, as her eldest sister passed away early in life. Her father was a successful manufacturer, and her mother sadly died of cancer when Ruth was graduating high school. Ruth went on to pursue a bachelor's degree in government at Cornell University, where she would also meet her future husband, Martin Ginsburg. After Cornell, the couple went to Harvard Law School together. There, she was selected to be on a Harvard Law Review, and later, when she transferred to Columbia, due to her husband's job and their child, she was also selected to be on Columbia's Law Review. She was the first person to have won both seats. In 1959, she earned her law degree at Columbia and tied for first place in her class. The 70s was a very busy and monumental decade for Ruth Bader Ginsburg. First, she co-founded the Women's Rights Law Reporter, the first journal dedicated to gender equality. She then became a law professor at Columbia University and argued her first case against the Supreme Court. During this decade, she founded the ACLU's Women's Rights Program and also wrote many publications on sex discrimination law. Ginsburg argued 6 cases before the Supreme Court during the 70s. Part of her brilliant strategy to get a male-dominated court to recognize the unfairness between genders was to argue cases that focused on the discrimination of men. In 1975, Ginsburg argued in favor of Stephen Wiesenfeld during Weinberger v. Wiesenfeld. Stephen Wiesenfeld became a widower after his wife died in childbirth. When his wife was alive, she was the main source of income, and Social Security was taken from her wage as normal. When she died, her husband filed for survivor's benefits. Women and children received Social Security benefits after the death of a husband. However, Wiesenfeld was denied his benefits and told only his child would be able to receive them. He stated that Social Security was discriminating on the basis of sex and sought justice. Ginsburg sharply argued that the law ignored the idea that men could be caregivers and women breadwinners. The dismissal of this reality reinforces the assumption that working for pay is primarily the prerogative of men. As a result, in an 8-0 decision, the Supreme Court ruled that the denial of benefits was unconstitutional. This was not only a win for Wiesenfeld, but for most feminists as well. Finally, the issue with gender equality were being rectified, and stereotypes were being challenged. Ruth Bader Ginsburg understood that equal rights for women also meant equal responsibility. Her last case as an attorney before the Supreme Court was Duren v. Missouri. This case challenged the validity of voluntary jury duty for women, on the ground that participation in jury duty was a citizen's job and therefore should not be optional for women. Taken together, Ginsburg's legal victories discouraged legislature from treating women and men differently under the law. After years of teaching, raising 2 children, and arguing cases before the Supreme Court as a judge in a U.S. appeal court, President Bill Clinton appointed her Supreme Court Justice on August 10, 1993. Ginsburg was the second woman of 4 and the first Jewish woman to serve as Supreme Court Justice. The Senate confirmed her appointment with a vote of 96-3.
Justice Ginsburg, will you raise your right hand and repeat after me? I, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, do solemnly swear
I, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
Ginsburg's major accomplishment as Chief Justice occurred in 2007, when she dissented in the court's decision on Ledbetter versus Goodyear. Plaintiff, Lilly Ledbetter, sued her employer, Goodyear Tire and Rubber, for pay discrimination based on her gender. Under Title VII of the Civil Rights Act, however, employees cannot sue their employer for pay decisions made 100 days or more earlier in the past. Ginsburg found this absurd, pointing out that women often do not know they are being paid less, and therefore it is unfair to expect them to act in such a premature time. She also called attention to the reluctance women may have by filing lawsuits over small amounts, choosing instead to wait until the disparity accumulates. Ginsburg called on Congress to amend Title VII in order to undo the court's decision. Following the election of President Barack Obama in 2008, the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act was passed, making it easier for employees to win discrimination claims in the past. Ginsburg was credited with helping to inspire that law.
Now, Lilly Ledbetter did not set out to be a trailblazer or a household name. She was just a good hard worker who did her job, and she did it well for nearly 2 decades before discovering that for years she was paid less than her male colleagues for doing the very same work. Over the course of her career, she lost more than $200,000 in salary and even more in pension and Social Security benefits, losses that she still feels today. Now, Lilly could have accepted her lot and moved on. She could have decided that it wasn't worth the hassle and the harassment that would inevitably come with speaking up for what she deserved. But instead, she decided that there was a principle at stake, something worth fighting for. So she set out on a journey that would take more than 10 years, take her all the way to the Supreme Court of the United States, and lead to this day and this bill, which will help others get the justice that she was denied.
Since this is a location channel, one place you can check out is the Museum of American Jewish History in Philadelphia. It is the only museum in the country dedicated to the American Jewish experience, as well as their evolution over time. The museum displays a ton of exhibitions. In fact, it is the largest repository of American Jewish artifacts in the world. Those of you who want to visit the museum should save this location on a Cityscape app. Ruth Bader Ginsburg spent 13 years as a U.S. Appeals Court judge and 27 years as a Supreme Court justice. Her bejeweled collar, which she wore on the day she dissented, has become a sacred relic. The bibliography by Carmen and Kisnick, as well as a Hollywood film, On the Basis of Sex, expertly captures the magnitude of influence Ruth Bader Ginsburg has had on our society. She passed away in 2020 and is therefore no longer a living secret. After her passing, thousands gathered in Washington to honor her. She is survived by her 2 children, as well as the millions of lives she changed fighting for equality and justice. See you next time.